Tonight, I want to talk to you about some interesting developments that are happening when it comes to actions now being taken by Israel against the observing Orthodox Jewish people inside of Israel. They are escalating their war and their terror against the Jewish community inside of Israel. And I'm also going to be talking to you about recent footage coming from Hizbullah describing exactly what they targeted when they had their attacks when it comes to the KIRYA, the main hub of control of the genocide when it comes to Israel, alongside, of course, latest developments. We're going to start off with the conscription attempts. We all know, I mean, you all know by now, how much Israel is trying to enforce conscription against the Orthodox community in Israel. As a matter of fact, we've had a law for the first time in history forcing the country to force members of the Orthodox community to serve in the Israeli army. Ever since its inception, Israel gave the Jewish Orthodox community inside of Israel exemption from serving in the army. They usually study Torah and they have their own communities and they do not serve in the army, and they are still funded by the state. However, following the 7th of October, more and more soldiers were lost when it comes to Israel, and many people fled the country, including plenty of those of serving age or actual reservists. And you've had, of course, many people killed, many wounded, many suffering from PTSD and other problems, and many refusing to serve from those who the conscription applies on inside of Israel. So, of course, they resorted to the Jewish community, the Orthodox Jewish community inside of Israel. And this is exceptionally important. This is something exceptionally important, and I'll tell you why. Israel sells itself to the world as the Jewish state, as the only country for the Jewish people. Yet when you go and ask actual observing Jews, not Zionists, they will tell you how much they hate that country and how much they disagree with it, including those inside of Israel, not just people outside of Israel, including those inside of Israel. So I had this report here on the website of Yediot Ahronot, Ynet, about the conscription. And as you can see, this image is from Israel, ladies and gentlemen. Visibly, you can see these are Jewish people. These are Orthodox Jewish people. And what do they say? The Zionist army does not serve its citizens. It serves Zionism. Is anyone watching? You know, these people who constantly talk about Israel and Judaism and falsely using the already false term anti-Semitism to label anyone opposing this country. Are they seeing these images? Are they actually observing and reading what's happening in Israel? And here another guy raises a banner saying, I would rather die as a Jew than live as a Zionist. We will die and we will not serve in the army. They would rather die than serve in the army, rather die as Jews than serve in a Zionist army. Who are these people? These are Israeli Jewish people from the Orthodox community. Observing Jews, those who are religious, not Zionists, not those who are ethnicizing Judaism and using Judaism as a front for a neo-colonialist project. So I hope that more and more people start to watch these images coming from Israel and see them and actually read about them, rather than constantly spew propaganda and unsubstantiated information. And when it comes to the article itself, it was speaking about Israel Katz, the defense minister, the new defense minister of Israel. He surprised many people by actually sending the orders now. No one from Netanyahu's government sent the orders yet. They were trying to speak with the Orthodox community and try to reach a solution that wouldn't increase the tensions between the Orthodox community and the state. Now, of course, Benjamin Netanyahu relies on Jewish political parties, as in not the religious Zionists, but actual Orthodox, the Ashkenazi and the Mizrahi or Sfaradi Jewish people. They're both in his government, and they're there for a reason. They're there to get the benefits and try and stop Netanyahu and the government from implementing such laws. Now, the way they're trying to sell it is they're only going to send 7,000 orders, although legally it's applying on everyone. However, the government is trying to introduce it slowly so that it can later expand. They had several attempts before and they failed. As a matter of fact, the Kfir brigade in the Israeli army was meant to be for the Orthodox community. However, it started to attract religious Zionists rather than people from the Orthodox community, therefore becoming the squatting establishment brigade inside of the IDF. And in many cases, they had problems and infighting between other brigades. And now they are the main actors in the genocide in Gaza, because these people firmly believe in this messianic approach when it comes to Zionism. So this report said Defense Minister Israel Katz announced this morning that the 7,000 conscription orders ordered by the fired minister Yoav Gallant to issue the ultra-Orthodox Jews will be sent gradually starting next Sunday. So even the 7,000 orders will be sent gradually, not all at once. Again, in an attempt to slowly introduce this to the Orthodox community so that it can be acceptable and so that later Israel can expand the reach when it comes to conscription against the Orthodox community. But they're having none of it. They are having none of it. They said during the week, the IDF presented the Gali ombudsman in Rabbi Miara with factual data from which it appears that it needs to increase the IDF by at least 10,000 soldiers, of which 7,500 are for combat duties. That is also for yeshiva students or students who study the Torah and Judaism. She determined that a delay in issuing the presence orders or issuing them in a small amount that would harm the possibility of meeting the commitment given the High Court to recruit 4,800 ultra-Orthodox police officers is against the law. And the announcement of God stated that the Minister of Defense made it clear that he intends to hold an in-depth dialogue with all parties in order to try and promote an agreed solution which will allow for a true integration of the ultra-Orthodox Jews in the IDF in order to ease the burden on the regular, permanent, and reserve soldiers who fight valiantly and give their lives for Israel's security. More like cowardly and give their lives for Netanyahu and for no reason. Along with the preservation of the world of the Torah. They're trying to make it appealing for these people. And again, this is a move coming from the government, by the way, because they are worried. They don't want to be at odds now. They don't want to open another front when it comes to the Supreme Court in Israel. The Supreme Court in Netanyahu, they already have a very tense relationship with Benjamin Netanyahu, especially with his attempts to have this judicial reform that would give him full control over the judicial system in Israel, allowing him to appoint whoever he wants without any scrutiny, only by passing it through certain figures in his government that are totally under his thumb. So basically, Netanyahu can choose the Supreme Court people and who heads the Supreme Court. And of course, they're trying to make it out as if it's again not going to be against the religion, fulfill their tasks in the IDF, alongside maintaining their religious lifestyle. Protests here. When it comes to, I'll show you when the ad ends, when it comes to the people actually going, serving, they're still protesting. These are not the most aggressive protests, by the way, from them. but they were just some of the protests against So they're actually protesting against the people going and serving, and anyone from the community who even entertains the idea. Now, on mainstream media, they're trying to underplay the situation. Of course, some of the slogans that they were raising represent a level of their approach when it comes to this. You know, the Zionist army does not serve its citizens, it serves Zionism. We'd rather die as Jewish people we'd rather die as Jews than live as Zionists. We would die and not serve in the army. Because you had statements coming from the top figures in the Orthodox community inside of Israel saying that we will immigrate. We will leave the country. We will leave the country if that means not serving. So we wouldn't serve in the army. And you're talking about a community that has over 1.2 million people inside of Israel. So although they really need them, it's going to be very difficult for them, even with these small numbers. And like the example that I've given you with this brigade from the IDF, it was Netzach Yehuda, not Kfir. Netzach Yehuda was supposed to be the brigade that attracts the Orthodox community. Kfir, I think it was another one. But Netzach Yehuda, or the Eternity of Judea, was supposed to be a brigade in the IDF that is attractive for the Orthodox community. However, that was the brigade that ended up attracting the religious Zionism movement, the squatters like Smotrich and Ben Gvir and these people. So this is indicating, of course, that Israel is struggling heavily when it comes to soldiers, when it comes to getting people to fight. And like I said before, you have over 1 year into this war, many people in Israel turned 18. And if all of them served, then you would make up the numbers that are required, at least when it comes to this 10,000 number that they're claiming, although the figures are likely to be much higher than that. Where are they? Many people are fleeing the country for good, not coming back, and many are refusing. Again, reports coming from Israel say that 25% of the reservists are refusing to serve now, and at best you have between 75 to 85% people serving. So actually going in and following the orders, more and more people are refusing to serve. And again, refusal to serve in Israel is considered a taboo. A small minority of the people in Israel, those who bravely resist Israel's war crimes, will go and say, we refuse to serve based on moral principles because our army is an occupation army and it commits war crimes and a genocide, and they risk being imprisoned, of course, and there are some of them. And the rest of them just don't want to serve because they know what the situation is. That was the first thing that I wanted to talk to you about. And then I want to talk to you about the Hizbullah attack yesterday. Yesterday and the day before yesterday, Hizbullah targeted the KIRYA, the main hub of the Israeli military command establishment, the defense ministry, the most strategic hub where everything is controlled, where the genocide is run, where the decisions are made. So we had more images and clarification coming from Hizbullah, including a couple of videos that showed parts of their weapons used when it comes to this attack that happened on the Israeli KIRYA next to Tel Aviv. with missiles and drones, scenes from the targeting of the KIRYA deep inside Tel Aviv. And here they're saying with Qadir 2 missiles, and this is one of the videos that they published. Bit of translation, by the way, for those of you who don't know Arabic, of course, that would be probably the majority of you. The KIRYA base includes the Ministry of War and the General Command, and it includes the War Room and the Command and Control and Observation Centers of the Army for the Air Force inside of Israel. And these were some of the drones that they launched on the KIRYA. This is upon arrival, of course, inside the occupied territories from settlers. And this is the Qadir 2 missile. This is a ballistic missile. This is one of Hizbullah's bigger missiles. Not the biggest, but one of the bigger missiles that can hit the heart of Israel. And they used it. That was the first video that they shared when it comes to the attack yesterday. And they also published another video. I'll just share a couple of images from this video. It's a 3D image of the location, right? The Azrieli buildings inside of Tel Aviv that are commercial buildings. And this is the Rabin base in central Tel Aviv, formed in 1948. And then, okay, why did it stop now? Okay, hold on. Let's see. And here, buildings to do with the Israeli Air Force too. They have everything. They monitor everything, Hezbollah. Human resources, the investigations branch in the intelligence community inside of Israel as well. This is the KIRYA. Here is the command base of the Israeli Navy and the research unit here and the operations unit, or called the BOR. And of course, all of these buildings have massive bunkers beneath them so that Netanyahu can run away very quickly if something happens. Well, not just him, of course, everyone else. And here they're saying it's a communication center and a defensive command as well, technology, logistics. So basically, you get the idea. They are monitoring every part of the KIRYA, Hezbollah. They know exactly what they're targeting. So they have this 3D image that they 3D video that they generated, so that they know exactly where they reach and what to target and from which location. And this is the Defense Ministry and the IDF command base as well. The size, how many levels, what's on the southern part, what's on the northern part, which office, the first branch, the second branch, all of it, all of it. I mean, Hizbullah, when it comes to intelligence, and they prove time after time, including by things like this, how calculated they are and how sophisticated they are with their attacks on Israel. It's not like they target any old thing. They know exactly what they're targeting. And again, you don't hear any confirmations coming from Israel most of the time. Even today, there were reports coming from Israel about many explosions happening again in central Tel Aviv without saying anything else. All that we heard was we have a lot of attacks, a lot of explosions happening inside of Tel Aviv without anyone saying anything. And that was, of course, alongside the regular attacks that they are conducting every single day now, very deep into Israeli territories. Now, what Israel is doing now is intensifying the attacks in Lebanon. We're having a report that a draft has been submitted to the Lebanese side coming from the US administration to show them what they are proposing. The report also confirmed that Donald Trump had a look at the draft and he supported it too. But the confirmations that are coming from Lebanon before the details about this draft itself say that, well, we're only talking about 1701, UN Resolution 1701. That is basically a resolution that happened after the 2006 war. And all the talk is about enforcing the 1701, but from both sides, from the Israeli side and from the Lebanese side. And what many people like to ignore, especially because Israel constantly says that, well, Hizbullah breached the resolution, they have arms in the southern part of Lebanon. Well, what did you do? Israel, according to monitoring coming from the Lebanese army, the United Nations, and the resistance in Lebanon, had 39,000 breaches of UN Resolution 1701 in the past 18 years. 39,000 breaches, including attacks, including airspace invasions, including survey, including many things. 39,000. But they, of course, with their entitled and arrogant approach, they want to enforce things only on the Lebanese without anything being enforced on them. They want, Syria not to pass arms to Lebanon, but they are entitled to receive arms from the US, from the UK, from the genocide cartel to continue their genocide and mass war crimes and massacres. That's fine. But anyone resisting them, they shouldn't. And they need to have freedom of movement when it comes to Lebanon. And those days are over. I mean, they are so over these days. And I don't know what they're thinking, the decision makers inside of Israel, dreaming about enforcing such things on the Palestinian resistance and on the Lebanese resistance. I mean, if the Palestinian resistance hasn't submitted after so much destruction and massacres in Gaza, do you think Lebanon will? Do you think the Lebanese resistance will, to be more accurate? Because not everyone in Lebanon supports them. Like the situation in Palestine, not everyone in Palestine supports the Palestinian resistance. And these things are important to mention, by the way, because what we're talking about is beyond nationality, is beyond your religious affiliation, is beyond your ethnicity. We're talking about a case of human rights and what approach each individual takes and what stances people take when it comes to cases of human rights and opposing wars, opposing war crimes, and standing up against massacres. These things don't have a nationality, and they also don't have a religion. Yes, religion can support standing up for what's right and justice but that's why you will see many people having far better positions without being Palestinian and in many cases without being religious too, better than some Palestinian people, some Lebanese people, and some Muslims and some Arabs as well. And that's something exceptionally important, because there are people, especially from the propagandist side or those who serve Zionists from all across the world, whether they're in the Christian world or Muslim world, whether from the Arab world. And don't forget, the majority of Zionists are not Jews. Let's not forget that Zionism was established as a Christian movement in the beginning. They would like to portray it as something else. And Israel always likes to bang on about this victimhood, and they constantly talk about this Jewish people and the unsubstantiated and falsely labeled anti-Semitism label. But all of that is no longer working. I mean, they're trying hard to make it work, but it is not working. So, going back to the draft, from Lebanon, we still haven't had a lot of elaboration about this draft. But what I was intending to talk about is the fact that before any potential of a ceasefire happening, that's assuming we have any pending ceasefire, because you know what happened in the past year. Israel likes to intensify. And their intensification comes in the form of punishing people, of massacres. I mean, if you follow me on X, or you can see the images that I sometimes post are very harsh coming. This is what they do. And they intensify that when they come closer to a ceasefire. Why? To try and take more and more from the opposing side. And tell them, well, if you don't agree, this is what we're going to do. And they even state that. In Israel, the leadership told Hizbullah, every day that passes without Hizbullah accepting our conditions for a ceasefire means more damage and destruction. Again, not necessarily against Hizbullah, because they're targeting everything in Lebanon. Are Hizbullah stopping? No, they're not. They're targeting the heart of Zionism, the KIRYA. And whichever unit they like, whichever room they like, whichever room they see fit, or department. You saw the 3D images that they were publishing. They know. They went to Benjamin Netanyahu's bedroom. Reports are coming from Israel that these drones go through the window. They go through windows and explode inside. And we saw this attack on one of the IDF units when they were having the Last Supper, their Last Supper. That's when it comes to Lebanon. Again, nothing confirmed yet when it comes to the ceasefire. We're having talks that they got the draft. We don't have any elaboration yet when it comes to the draft, but we have these statements coming. Moving on to the next video that I wanted to share with you. We have, like we are saying many times lately, we have a pending response. We have a pending response, and the Iranian army a few days back released this video. Saying True Promise 3. More talks, and now we have more figures, top figures in the establishment now saying that the response is coming again and they need to prepare. All of the indications that we're seeing from Iran, by the way, with this regard, are saying that we're expecting something big to happen, something at a bigger scale than what we saw before. And it's most likely going to be launched primarily from Iran. You know, these reports that said some of the attacks might happen from Iraq. No, very likely. I mean, we might have a couple of things, or potentially something coordinated, but the biggest damage is going to most likely come from Iran, unless, that is, Iran and the resistance fronts are planning for the day of destruction, are planning for the all-out day. The all-out day where we could see a scenario of more than 5 figures in missiles launched at Israel simultaneously. So 10 to 20,000. If that scenario gets implemented, you're talking about 99% of the missiles landing, because all of Israel's air defenses will have no time to take anything down. And we just had more reports coming from US forces who participated in the interception attempts of the Iranian attacks, saying they were shocked at the level of missiles that were launched by Iran during Operation True Promise 2. If they were shocked, if the US forces were shocked by the number of missiles launched from Iran and capability of their missiles during Operation True Promise 2, what are they going to do with True Promise 3? What are they going to do? Ansarullah are targeting their destroyers and the aircraft carriers, and they're removing their aircraft carriers that they hoped would intimidate the region or the resistance fronts, something that hasn't happened and it is not going to happen. And they're saying that they're shocked by True Promise 2. Well, all we can say is, what are you going to do when it comes to True Promise 3? Which leads me to the final thing that I wanted to talk to you about, this report of Hizbullah targeting Benjamin Netanyahu's house again. This was published in IRNA. Hezbollah drones hit area where Netanyahu's home is located. Israeli media reported late on Thursday that an explosion was heard in the area where Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu resides, located in Caesarea, near Haifa and Tel Aviv, according to the Lebanese Al-Ahad news website. Well, there were explosions like all across Israel yesterday. Well, at least from central part above. Sirens, reports of sirens 24/7 and explosions almost everywhere. And it wouldn't be surprising if that was actually his house again. The reports indicate that a drone attack by Hezbollah was responsible for the explosion. And when we talk about specific reports about, for example, explosions near Benjamin Netanyahu's house, that's from Israelis on the ground. Why? Because you have many people protesting next to his residential house in Caesarea and his main residence location in Jerusalem too. He's most likely not going to be there for the majority of the time because his life is at risk. Many Israelis want him killed. And they would have an interest in showing where things actually land. Although the IDF issued many warnings for Israelis and for media as well not to disclose the locations of the missile landings so that they don't help the resistance. Hezbollah has launched multiple drone attacks on the area where Netanyahu's home is located in recent days. Some Zionist media outlets say that Netanyahu has been working in a fortified basement since the October drone attack conducted by the Lebanese resistance movement Hezbollah on his house. Also on October 19th, Zionist media reported that Hezbollah had launched an explosive drone at Netanyahu's home in Caesarea in occupied Quds. I think that's something wrong there because Caesarea is not in Jerusalem, or if they mean the residing place that he has, the residence in Jerusalem. Israel's Channel 11 said that the drone was launched from Lebanon, traveled directly 70 kilometers, and then reached Netanyahu's home. The smoke caused by the explosion was visible from a remote distance. An informed source told Channel 12 that Netanyahu and his wife were not present in their home at the time of explosion. About a week after the attack, the office of the Israeli Prime Minister requested an additional budget of about $500,000 to strengthen the security services in Caesarea in the occupied territories. Of course, that's what he's worried about, alongside a refurb for the pool He's having a refurb done for the pool in the middle of an existential war and asking for more expenses on his personal home. With regards to the attack, by the way, the one that actually hit the window, there are many indications that Netanyahu was there and that Hizbullah operate in a very clever manner, knowing his movements. And that's why he's ordered by the manager of his security not to go anywhere unless authorized by him. And again, he's in fortified bases and trying to run away from death. Why are there big indications that he was there? He very quickly published a video walking in a garden, well, that appeared to be his garden in Caesarea. The man is scared. The man is petrified. So he's very paranoid now. He knows that they're coming for him and that they're not going to stop, and that they openly declared that they're trying to take away his life. Hezbollah confirmed, we tried to assassinate Netanyahu and we will continue to try and assassinate him. Maybe next time he won't be so lucky. Hezbollah openly confirmed that. And they also said that after they declared that, it's like, how can you really target the prime minister? People telling them. And their response was, you're talking about a country that has no boundaries. They slaughter children and women. They're child killers. And they targeted all of our leaders. What do you mean? Why do we target their prime minister? So he's very scared. Benjamin Netanyahu is very scared. He's very paranoid. Almost no one knows his whereabouts. The government meetings, the cabinet meetings are always moved from one place to another. There is no permanent meeting place when it comes to Netanyahu after the location has been leaked and they had to cancel a meeting following certain alerts, again indicated that they are indicating that there are people inside of Israel passing this information. What are these Iranian rings that Israel exposed not long ago? Jewish Israelis, informants working for Iran, knowingly, not unknowingly. They know it's Iran. Many of them in prison. And these were only the reported ones. And then the confirmation that Itamar Ben-Gvir had assassination attempts against him and that the Israeli Shabak saved his life 5 times. Again, they might not be so lucky in any upcoming attempt.